Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Betting Show, Week 15. I am your host, Andrew, joined by Adam, as always. I was labelling you the fantasy guru during the season, but, that kind of stems my way at the minute. So,
Really? You sure?
Yeah. I think I've had quite a few winners this season. Although you've started at the back end of the year, you've started to come into the money. You've had a fair few winners over the past few weeks, haven't you? So, maybe this is your time to shine, coming up to playoffs, Christmas, earning some people some money, some extra pocket money to get those presents.
It's Friday the 13th. Lucky for some.
Hey, I used to live at number 13. It is very lucky for me, so I don't mind the number 13.
There you go.
Now I live at 14, so I'm just moving down
up in the world. Well done.
Adam, we've already had a game played. It was on last night. If anybody in the UK stayed up to watch it, I hope you like defense and punting, because that was good. Kicking was good as well, which we've seen a few bad kicks during the season. And that was the Los Angeles Rams against the San Francisco 49ers, played in the heavy rain. And the game finished 12-6 to the Rams. I've watched the highlights. There was a couple of positives to take from it. But overall, a rare, bad standalone game. The standalone games have been really, really good quality this season. Good battle. Maybe just the score wasn't right. I don't know. What's your take on
it? Pretty boring game, really, wasn't it? Not a lot happened. Yeah, I think that it was probably one of the worst ones of the season, really. There was nothing happened. The only sort of takeaway that I think anyone can come up with is that even if the Rams play pretty poorly, if you've got Puka Nakua in your fantasy team, you're probably going to be happy because he was the only one who really did. Well, Kyron Williams wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
He did all right.
Because stats-wise and maybe fantasy-wise, the points were there. But if you watch the game, he had some really good runs and he kept that, the clock ticking and moved the chains when he needed to. So I think overall he didn't have a bad game, but the stats didn't showcase how well he played, I don't think.
No, and I think it shows that Puka's the number one guy, isn't he, there now, and it has happened. And anyone who's got Cooper Kupp, unfortunately, I think is going to be in for a rough ride this weekend in the fantasy playoffs. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame. But the game itself, just not a lot happened, to be honest. There just wasn't much there. I think there are people coming out and saying basically, does this show that Purdy can't do it when he hasn't got all his team fit? And I'd probably come out and say, well, he was, drafted where he was drafted. What do you expect to a certain degree? There's only so much that you're ever going to get from him, and it's more the scheme, isn't it, that does it rather than anything else. So
yeah, it's a tough one because they're on about paying him big money.
Well, he's going to get the deal, isn't he? You got to think, and it's going to be the next highest. So
it's really tough because he's not a bad quarterback. I'd say he's a B level quarterback, so he's not quite A.
Yeah.
And he's going to get A category sort of wages because that's just the way it goes. But he's probably B level. But like you say, it is tough for any quarterback, I believe. If you're missing your left tackle, your running back, your best separation wide receiver. It is tough, and backup running backs are in. They've lost both their running backs, and they've had a bit of drama as well within that organization from the off season and then through the season with wide receivers and O linemen and stuff like that holding out and bit of stuff, and Debo's outburst about not getting the ball and things. So there has been a bit of drama on that organization this year. So I don't think it's all on Purdy, but yeah, we're definitely seeing that he can't put it on his shoulders like Stafford can and carry a team when it's struggling. So like I said, we're not saying Purdy's bad or he shouldn't be in the league, but it's just showcased and highlighted their error where he struggles.
I think if you're paying Trevor Lawrence, you're probably paying Brock Purdy. To be honest, I think that's, and I know that obviously they were at very different, parts of the draft when they got drafted in their individual years, but I think from what you've seen, if you're paying guys like Trevor Lawrence, I think it'd be wrong to not pay Brock Purdy, and I think you've got to go for it a little bit with him. And he clearly has some talent, and it's not all a disaster, but it's just it's kind of like that time, isn't it, of the season where it's like you need to, if you want to get in the playoffs, you've got to do something to win, and he just hasn't done it. So, like you say, it's been a bit of a roller coaster for him this season, and it's funny, it happens all the time. It's always the season after the team that gets to the Super Bowl and loses is always a struggle, and it's not a surprise that it's happened again.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on and we'll take a look at some of the games in week 15.
There you go. We spoke a lot about quite possibly the most boring game.
Oh, I could have carried on. I could have talked about the Rams as well, but I just thought, we're here to give people some betting odds and not dissect the late game.
The most boring game in the season.
Last week we went 3-2. Again, it seems to be a bit of a common theme. When we don't get it, it seems to be 3-2. We were let down by the Dolphins, I believe, obviously winning overtime. I said that was a lot for that one as well. And that game was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And then one of the other games was a push, I think. So I say 3-2. I think, was it the Texans maybe?
I think so.
But once that Miami game had gone out the window, I kind of stopped looking. But we move on. So first up for the F-Tag 5 this week, I have gone for the Cincinnati Bengals -5. They're at the Titans. I know the Titans have, they're playing for what? They're playing for pride now. They're got a good defense, but I do think Bengals have the ability to put up points and score well. And although their defense has just been leaking left, right, and center, Titans haven't got loads on offense, and they do turn over the ball quite a bit. So I just think Joe Burrow is going to want to win this one again and finish with the best record he possibly can and be like, look, I'm the guy. I've got MVP level stats. Just my team wasn't good enough. So I think he's going to try and continue that. So I think they win by a touchdown. It's within 2 field goals as well. So even if they're just kicking that late field goal or whatever, just to push it a bit higher, that could be there. The 7 points is there. So yeah, I've got no qualms about Bengals putting score up. So it's just whether the Titans defense is too strong or whether the offense can actually produce the goods.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it, this one? Because if you look at all the stats, obviously the Bengals defense has been pretty poor most of this season, and the Titans defense has actually not been too bad. The problem is that they just can't score enough points in order to make a difference. And I think that doesn't matter who you've got at quarterback, whether you've got Will Levis there or not, because he's got a shoulder injury, hasn't he? But they seem to think he might play, he might not. It's a bit of probably a game time thing. So it's a bit of a difficult one to know when it comes to the Titans offense, who's going to be quarterback, but at the same time, to a certain degree, it doesn't really matter that much because they're just not very good. So I think that there will be a limit to what the Titans can score, even going up against this Bengals defense that does give up points. But yeah, I think at the end of the day with this one, you've got Joe Burrow, you've got Jamar Chase, you've got Chase Brown as well, who's having a really good season. And I think just having these guys there, T. Higgins is there as well. Of course, he kind of disappeared a bit last week, but I would expect him to come back a bit more in this one. And you've just got a lot more offensive talent. And it's funny because obviously, like I say, you look at the stats and you sort of go more towards the Titans, but you have got the Bengals at -5. It is within the touchdown. And I just think the Bengals are a better, stronger offense and will probably just be able to overpower the Titans defense to a certain extent, despite the fact that they're not too bad. And I don't trust the Titans offense to do anything.
No.
And it also, it does kind of feel now that you're starting to see teams that are thinking more about the draft. And, the Titans are currently looking at picking number 6, and they're going to need you would think they're going to want to go quarterback. That's the most likely thing that they're going to do as they're in this position. Do they feel they can get the quarterback that they want at number 6? Probably not. So they probably feel like they need to move up, and so with that as well, I mean, I'm not saying the players and the staff you would think would want to win every game they're out there for, but you got to bear in mind that Brian Callahan, it's his first year. He hasn't got his guy. He probably wants to get his guy, and so maybe there would be almost a little bit of an incentive not to maybe win every game that's left. So yeah, I think that the Bengals are just a stronger offense. So yeah, -5 is happy for me.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that the Bengals currently have the leading passing quarterback, the leading wide receiver in yards, and the leading defender in sacks, and they're in the position that they are. And we're saying their defense is terrible, yet Trey Hendrickson's leading the league in sacks. It's a bizarre.
It's the secondary, isn't it? That's really struggled. Yeah.
And then Titans. They've dipped into the quarterback draft pool twice in both years that it was not great for quarterbacks, and they got Malik Willis and then they got Will Levis. We know it's not, in terms of top level depth of quarterbacks, not there this year. So they strike me as a team that maybe go for a Sam Darnold or something. Maybe they're one of them that take a punt on someone like that rather than risking it again and failing again and having guys on the field that just pulling the hair out over the turnovers and bad play. I don't know.
I mean, possibly that kind of would make sense that they could go down that route, but it's the one thing I would say, they haven't gone for a first round quarterback, have they? They haven't really gone all out and got themselves a top quality quarterback. I mean, Willis was 3rd round, Levis was beginning of the 2nd, wasn't he? And so it kind of feels like maybe they need to, if they're going to go for it, maybe this is a sort of a bit of a lesson for teams to a certain extent. If you're going to get a quarterback, go for it in the 1st round and at the top of the 1st round, because that's where the best ones are. And if you try and get these other guys, it doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, someone like Darnold, he's probably going to be the best quarterback who will be a free agent, so it would make sense. But they need to do something at that team because it's not, obviously it's a bit of a rebuild, but it's not really worked out this season.
Yeah, no, and you've got a head coach there that showed promise, and you don't want to see him just get sacked because the team's not good enough and he wasn't able to cement him and put his stamp on it. So
no,
it'd be nice for him to do something. My next game that I've gone up for is the New York Jets -3.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I can say as many weeks as I like. I've been against the Jets every single time they've played, but I always say they've got the talent, and they did play somewhat a little bit better last week. But when you've got that amount of offensive weapons and that amount of defensive weapons, you should be winning games. And they're playing against a team that I thought didn't want to win any more games and wanted the first pick in the draft. But, they've kindly decided that they would like the Giants or the Raiders to maybe have a chance at a first round pick. And because Jags have had too many over the last 5 years. So they kindly won a game. But I can't see them wanting to win any more and move any further down that board. So Jets definitely want to win more games because they need something for the fans based on how much they put into it. And they can't just go, we're tanking and rebuilding or whatever, because that's not where they're at. They're probably going to try and retain some of those players that they've got. I know Garrett Wilson, there's been rumors that he will request a trade at the end of the year if it carries on this way. So they'll probably want to end on a high and try and keep him, maybe get him the ball a bit more. So I think Jets and their talent over the Jags, who Evan Ingram's now out for the season. Quarterback is Mac Jones. I think 3.5. I know it's over the field goal, but I can see them winning by more than a field goal anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it is over the field goal is a bit annoying, but I do agree that I think the Jets are the better team here. Just in general, anyway. I know defensively they've struggled a bit since Robert Saleh's gone, but there's still a very good defense, and they've still looked like, not as good as what they have been, but they still look like a decent one. The offense obviously has sort of struggled a little bit. It looks like Breece Hall's going to miss again, which is a bit of a shame. But they've got a couple of guys. That is it Isaiah Davis? I think it was. He came in. He looked all right.
Yeah,
he didn't look too bad. Braylon Allen,
yeah.
obviously, we've seen this season has been okay. And obviously, you also have the names that are there. You've got Devontae Adams, you've got Garrett Wilson at wide receiver, who have struggled a little bit this season, but they are still quality players, and Rodgers does still have something there. It's not completely all disappeared. So going up against this Jags team, who 31st at giving up passing yards, 24th at giving up rushing yards, it's not a good defense. It's struggled a lot. As you said, Mac Jones is there. There's a limit to what he's going to be able to do. Evan Ingram's out now as well, so it feels like Brian Thomas is just going to be peppered with targets, because where else do you want to go, to be brutally honest? There isn't much else, although Parker Washington seems to have suddenly turned up, but that's about it. So, yeah, there's not a lot there. So they're not, I would argue, despite the fact that both teams have got pretty similar records, that the Jags have not got much really to play for. The Jets, I just think, are a better all-round team. So, yeah, -3.5 is not a bad one at all.
My next game I've gone for has had a bit of movement in it. It's gone movement in the side that I didn't think it would. I've gone for the Denver Broncos at -4. They're at home against the Indianapolis Colts. Broncos, biggest surprise of the season, playing some great football. Their defense is looking great. Their offense, week by week, is looking better and better. Bo Nix is sort of found his feet and playing good ball and fit into that system really, really well. The Colts, another organization that's had a lot of drama this season. I do believe that the benching of Richardson, a little bit like Bryce Young, the benching of Richardson and then bringing him back, I think he has come back better and he's playing better. He's not, his completion percentage is better, and I think his explosive plays are higher. So there is there of that, but apparently this has moved from I know it's only moved from 5 to 4, but that must, with that big jump, I'd say there's a lot of professional bettors putting their money on the Colts rather than everyday Joes banging small bets on it to move it that much. So I was quite confident that Broncos would win this one comfortably. I thought their defense is going to be strong enough and they'll put up points. So I didn't mind the -4 too much either. I thought I was all right with that. So what's your take on this one? Why do you think the professionals maybe are looking at the Colts?
I think the one thing I'd say with the Colts is that they do always stick around in games. They do seem to be able to do that, and they always manage to produce a certain amount of offense, whether that be Anthony Richardson, whether that be Joe Flacco. They are capable of getting a certain amount of points in there and doing okay with that. A little bit like you, I must admit, I am surprised that it's moved from -5 to -4. I think that the Broncos are by far the better all-round team. And defensively, they've been really good. They've got they had a bye. Did the Colts have a bye last week? I can't remember.
They were both on bye.
Were they both on bye? So, they've both been rested. I don't know if anyone has come back from injury for the Colts, and maybe that's why it's moved in a little bit, but I can't imagine it would be anything significant that would really make much of a difference. I just think that the Broncos, like I say, a better all-round team, really strong defense, Bo Nix obviously there's a limit to what Bo Nix can do. It's quite a simple offense that they're running in Denver, but it's working, and so why change that? And you would expect that will continue to happen, certainly for the rest of this season, and maybe as Nix develops, maybe the offense can develop into more as well. The Colts defensively have been a bit of a nightmare all season. They're just not very good, and they've really struggled, which is strange, isn't it? Because that's normally the area that they're really, really good at. But defensively, they've struggled, given up loads of yards against the run. They're 31st against the run, 26th against the pass. So I think that because of that, based on the defenses and alone, I think you'd be looking at the Broncos -4. If they want to bring it into -4, then I'm happily taking that. And I'm not 100% sure why it's moved, but to me, I'm like I say, more than happy to take the -4.
Yeah, I just had a quick look. You mentioned injuries there, and I just thought, you know what? I'll see whether it's Riley Moss that's made it move, because he was out last week, and I think it was Wallace that covered him, and he got torched by Jerry Jeudy quite a lot. So maybe
is Josh Downs back as well?
Not sure, but I'm just thinking there's with Riley Moss being out.
Yeah,
I've just looked. He's still injured, and they say that it's looking like he probably won't suit up against the Colts. So maybe they're worried about the pace of some of these Colts and Richardson being able to bomb it down. You know, a little bit like Jameis Winston to Jeudy, really, a little similar play. But they won that game. They still won that game, didn't they? It wasn't as if they lost. So you know, I'm happy, still happy with the -4. So unsure. The next game, Adam, I've gone for is the Arizona Cardinals at -6 at home against the New England Patriots. It's another team that is, you know, pushing to win their division, get into the playoffs. I know they're a bit hit and miss every week, and every time I put them in any bet, you're like, nah, I would keep away from them because I never know which team's turning up. I think they can win this one, and I think they can win it well. I think they'll want to put up a big score against one. And Patriots, again, another team, what they're playing for. Surely they want a better pick in the draft, and, you know, just showing signs that their rookies are getting more snaps and look like they're good is all they want from games. So surely the Cardinals come out fighting for this one, and this is a big game for them to make sure they win. So I think Cardinals -6. I think they can do plus 10, I think. So, you know, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, you would hope that the Cardinals won this fairly comfortably. So -6 isn't really that bad, actually, against this New England Patriots team that has struggled this year. And like you say, it is all about getting the reps for the young players now, and they're currently at pick 3 for the draft. So it is all about that. And the Cardinals are in a position where they really need to win now. They don't have much choice. The Rams winning last night has put them ahead of them. The Seahawks are already ahead of them. So they do really need to get a win here if they've got any chance of making it to the playoffs. They struggled against the Seahawks last week. It was quite a tough loss that they had against them, and I think that they need to come out and really make a bit of a statement here to show that they are still capable of doing something if they have any desire to make it to the playoffs. So, yeah, I think with all of that involved, obviously you've got the Patriots traveling across country as well, and just, you know, both defenses are pretty similar when it comes to sort of like stats. They're both kind of middle of the pack. I think it could be quite an interesting game. I do think the Patriots might have a bit more success than what they've had in other games in this particular one, but the Cardinals really need to sort of like, they need to get Marvin Harrison involved a lot more. They need to just generally get more involvement from all of their players, apart from Trey McBride, who seems to be getting all of the ball. And as great as it is for me, I'm very happy with that, as he's in most of my fantasy leagues. But when it comes to the passing game, if they want any sort of success, they've really got to get more players involved. You get the odd bit from Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson, but just not enough, and there needs to be more of that. And I think that they really do have the potential to become a very good team very quickly, but at the moment I don't know, they're just not quite getting it right. And I think that this game is one that they should win fairly comfortably against this Patriots team, and hopefully they come out all guns blazing. And I can't remember who it was they played. It might have been the Bears. They played the Bears at home, and they were something like 31-3 up or something like that. Very, very quickly put on a lot of points. I could see this sort of thing happening here, and then the Patriots getting some success at the end of it. But I think they need that. They need a result like that in this game if they want to do anything.
Yeah, definitely. I think they can. The last one that I've gone for is, well, you won't like this because you don't like betting on your own team. I have gone for your Green Bay Packers. They even came in slightly from the start of the week, and I thought, you know what, this is less than a field goal. This is a good bet to take, regardless. So -2.5 for the Green Bay Packers at the Seahawks. The Green Bay Packers, for me, seem to have found their identity. They seem to be playing well now. They seem to be running the ball really, really well, which means that Jordan Love isn't having to throw the ball as much, and the turnovers and mistakes are kind of coming down a little bit more, and you're using your wide receivers really well over the top because that run game is working so well. I heard someone earlier today liken them to a younger version of the Philadelphia Eagles. So, that's, if you're moving towards that, that's not a bad comparison. The head coach as well, Matt LaFleur, we always talk, we might talk about them when we talk a little bit about some of the other odds, but we've always said that Mike Tomlin is the best head coach when he's an underdog covering the spread. Well, LaFleur, I think, is the best coach against the spread, regardless whether he's a favorite or an underdog. He's really good at covering the spread, best in the league, I believe. So, good coaching, good players, good young team, know who they are, playing well. Seahawks, I don't know what to make of them at the minute. They went on that bad stretch from week 4 to 9 where they just looked terrible, and I was like, no, Geno Smith's past it. He can't even throw accurately to DK Metcalf, who's a giant jumping in the air, and he's overthrowing him. And then they went on that little run, but in that run, they played Arizona twice and the Jets, I believe. That's who they played in that little successful run. I think they played the 49ers as well. So I'm still not convinced about them going up against a team I am convinced about currently. So that's why I'm on the side of -2.5 with the Packers. How do you feel about your team this week?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said makes sense. I agree with it in that respect.
Sense. That's all right.
You're just not getting me to bet on them, but everything makes sense, and I do agree with the Seahawks. They are very hot and sort of hot and cold. It's a weird sort of team, and like I say, they had a really good performance last week against the Cardinals, and kind of really blew them out of the water, to be honest. And the Cardinals just couldn't do anything about it, even if they did get a little bit at the end. So they won that fairly comfortably. But they're a team that when they do go up against good teams, they do struggle a little bit. And I think for me personally, there's been a few too many games away at Seattle that haven't necessarily worked out very favourably. So it is a difficult one to sort of be confident on the -2.5 there. But everything you said and the logic of it, and when you look at the two teams, you do feel like the Packers are in a position where the Packers are definitely a playoff team and the Seahawks might be a playoff team. And that's the difference. And so you sort of think that that's kind of why it makes sense for the -2.5. So I would encourage everyone else to back it, but don't ask me to.
Yeah. I thought you'd be saying that. Well, you kind of like all of them. There's a few question marks maybe over the Cardinals, maybe the Broncos, maybe I don't know. But is there any that the games you went through and went, Andrew, you've missed this one. This should have been in there. This is for sure. And which game did I overlook?
So, I mean, if you look at them and what's available, there's not like anything ridiculous that you've kind of overlooked. There's a few games that you sort of look at them and you go, there are a few sort of like coin flip games that you could go for. I have to say, I like the look of the Panthers at -2.5. I would not be against going for that against the Cowboys, which is a weird thing to come out and say, but the Bryce Young has looked better ever since Adam Thielen's come back, and they just generally look a bit more of a team. So you could go down that route. I will not be taking the -16.5 on the Ravens because that's a hell of a lot of points. And we saw, didn't we, with the Eagles against the Panthers, how that fell apart. I have to say, one that I do like the look of, and I would be more than happy to take the plus points on, is the Dolphins against the Texans.
You were going to say the Steelers.
No, because I do like the look of the Dolphins at +3 against the Texans. It's going to be in favourable weather for the Dolphins. We know they don't like cold weather, and the Texans' offense has spluttered quite a lot this season. Really struggled, and defensively they're pretty good. But I feel like the Dolphins are on a bit of a run at the moment. I think they're going to keep that going to the end of the season. So +3 on the Dolphins, I do like the look of that one. I get what you're saying with the Steelers. I think the Eagles will. I think the Eagles will win it.
Is there any reason for it to be? I think this has moved slightly. It was +6 at the start of the week.
Okay.
And I've only just noted this. It is +5 and moved slightly. Is there, with how well the Steelers are playing, their record, the teams they've beat, should this game not be a 3.5 spread? Do you think that if the Eagles are the better team and they might win and they're on a roll, fair enough. But do you think they've kind of gone disrespected the Steelers a little bit in this spread, especially at +6 when it was at the start of the week?
I think that probably the reason behind it is that George Pickens isn't playing, is he? He's still out.
Is he definitely not playing?
Well, I don't think it's definite, but it feels like it's trending that way.
Because if he is, then maybe that's the reason it's come down a bit.
If he's playing, then it's a little bit different. I think that the reason behind it is, see, I've got the Eagles to win, but I do feel like +5 is high, and I could see this being a field goal win. And that would be that. So in that respect, you'd be looking at the +5 on the Steelers. So I wouldn't be against it. I think that it's definitely doable. But I do think it's a bit of a tricky one because if you feel like the Eagles are going to win, but you're back in the +5 on the other team, it does feel a little bit not sure. For me, the Dolphins at +3 feels to be the one.
I felt like there was a few games this week that I quite like the plus rather than the minus. Quite like the +2.5 on the Bills. The way they're playing at the moment and the way they move the ball, whether it be and they're going to have Kincaid and Coleman back this week as well, and they've been playing without those two, and how well they've been playing. Without them, and they're going to have them on a plus side. I know that maybe the Lions are getting some of their D-line back. I don't know. But if they haven't, I can see the Bills offense sort of tearing that D-line up a little bit with how their style of play. So I did quite like that one. I did like the Steelers as well. I did like a couple of the pluses over the minuses. The other one, you mentioned it there, just wanted to bring it up. This is the first time in 33 games that the Panthers have been the favourites. I thought that was a nice little nod to them. I think a lot of people are backing them in this one as well. So Yeah,
Says a lot, doesn't it, about where the Cowboys are at the moment?
well, it says a lot about where the Cowboys are, and it says a lot about the growth of Bryce Young, and
Yeah.
just watching him play now, and the way he is with his opponents and with his players, and him with Darnold on the sideline. It just seems like a really nice guy as well, and someone to root for. So I think he's got a lot of people on his side again, and fingers crossed that it works out for him. And then also the Giants Ravens. This is the biggest spread of the season so far. But I've said all along, the Giants will hang around in games because they're good enough to on defense, and then they'll get to sort of the fourth quarter and go, yeah, we don't want to win now, so take the victory. So yeah, it's very 16 and a half. That's start
It's a
taking
lot.
the defense isn't that bad, is it? I know it
No.
struggles to defend the run. Maybe that's what it is, but the defense is been good all year.
But the thing is, even if you look at it in respect of defending the run, well, if all they're going to do is run the ball against the Giants, that's just going to take up a load of clock. So, I mean, do you still? It's still 16 and a half points. It's still a hell of a lot, and so it's not one that I would want to be looking at. I wouldn't want to be looking the other way either at all.
Let's say they are 16 up. If they are, the backups are coming in, and that's when you concede like garbage time touchdowns, and you win by 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's with a big spread like that. That's always the doubt. If they are up towards that, and you think it's going to come in, all the starters will come out, and all the backups will come in, and yeah, we get a couple of garbage times, and people will be looking at going, "Oh, the Giants only lost by 7, did they?" But they were never in it. Yeah, Adam, you got some touchdown scorers for us.
Yeah, so over 2-1 bets that we've got. So first one is that game, the Ravens against the Giants. Big price on this one. Obviously, as we've said, Giants struggling against the run. They're currently 29th when it comes to giving up rushing yards. And Justice Hill is
yes, I was going to say
5-1. So I do think that he's definitely worth a look at 5-1. I feel like Derek Henry's on. I don't know why this is. I feel like he's on a bit of a snap count, to be honest.
Do you think it's I think I've said this to you before. Do you think it's the Travis Kelce of the Ravens, sort of like the Chiefs sparingly use him during the season because of his age, and then when it gets to the playoffs, they're like, yeah, pepper him now?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, if obviously the idea of getting the number 1 seed or number 2 even in the AFC is a bit unlikely now for the Ravens. So it kind of feels a little bit like, okay, we're going to be in the playoffs, but we're not going to be right at the top of it. So is there any point really pushing him in games like this, especially if you are quite a distance ahead as well? There's no real need to do it. So I do feel like 5-1 on Justice Hill. I think he's going to get involved a bit more. Is definitely worth it. For the Titans Bengals game, I can bring Nick Westbrook Akine back into the 2-1 plus bets. He's after his 1 week of not doing anything last week, he's now gone back at 2-1. The Bengals 27th when it comes to giving up passing yards. So I think that at 2-1, he's definitely worth a shout. In the Chiefs Cleveland Browns game, I've gone for DeAndre Hopkins at 2-1. Now the Browns they're all right defensively. They're not a bad team. They're 13th when it comes to giving up passing yards, so they're not awful. But Hopkins being at that price does feel like, and it's a little bit strange to say because obviously Kelsey's been there for so long and has always been the guy that Mahomes goes to. It does feel like in the red zone it's Hopkins this season, and
it's
so
that sort of a little bit further out red zone, is it? You know, 15 yards out. They're looking at him, whereas I think Kelsey's more of a 5 yards out.
5 yards out, fall in the end zone. So it does feel that Hopkins is definitely that guy. So yeah, I like the look of him for this week. In the Bills-Lions game, we've got Keon Coleman's back. Now, I had him last week in my treble, and then he didn't play. They voided it. But at 2-1, going up against the Lions defense at 23rd against the pass. So you can score on this team. We've been saying it for most of the season that you can do that. So Keon Coleman is a decent price at that 2-1. The Patriots Arizona Cardinals game, Hunter Henry is currently 11-4. I think he's going to be involved quite a bit because I was looking at it and they don't have a lot of receiving options on the Patriots side. And it feels like he's the safety net that's always used quite a bit. He's 11-4. Cardinals defense that is kind of middle of the table, so not too bad. Not one I'm mega excited about, but I do feel like he's got a chance of getting in. In the Eagles Steelers game, we've gone for another biggie. Grant Calcaterra, who is currently 6-1. Now, obviously, this Steelers defense is a very good defense, but they do struggle against the pass a bit. 17th in the NFL they are. And also Goddard is out, isn't he? He's on IR now. So I feel like he is the obvious tight end that has come in, and whenever Goddard's been out before this season, he's done all right. He might get a chance of getting in the end zone. And so at 6-1, I think he's definitely worth a shot. And then my final guy in the Bucks Chargers game is Jalen McMillan, who managed to get himself 2 touchdowns last week. He's going up against a much better defense here in the Chargers.
Yeah, good secondary as well.
Yeah, good secondary. But I do wonder if maybe the Chargers are going to focus on Mike Evans, which might open it up a little bit for McMillan. So at 12-5, I think he's a good price as well.
Just quickly on that one that you just mentioned it with the Eagles game, I mentioned it in the draft process that I thought there was a possibility that Johnny Wilson might move to tight end because of his sheer his height and speed, and he was a good wide receiver in college at FSU. But I thought, with his height and his build and everything, it might move him to tight end. And I know he's featured a little bit and got some touchdowns already.
Yeah.
With that, he might slot in at the tight end role in this game in the red zone. So 12-1, it might be worth a cheeky fiver.
Yeah, he's played well. He's looked good when he's come out there. He hasn't been bad, and he is definitely someone that you can look at. I think that it felt like to me that Calcaterra was the one who was getting the majority of it, being the tight end. But yeah, Johnny Wilson could easily be a very good red zone target for them.
Yeah, well, we'll move on to our trebles. I'll go first. My first one, you've mentioned one of them already, and that is DeAndre Hopkins. I've had him at 15-8. I've also had Garrett Wilson at 6-4. I think they've got to get him involved more. As much as I've watched them, they look better on offense when they throw the ball to him more over Devontae Adams. So I think they need to get him. And I said to you, there's been rumors out there through this week that if things don't get any better or improve, he'll request a trade in the offseason and doesn't want to stay there. So I can see them wanting to get him the ball more. And when they do, he's good. So at 6-4. And then my last one, it's another guy that needs to get involved more. And that is Tank Dell. This team, if they're going to get better, they need to get him involved more. And he's at 15-8. So with those 3 wide receivers coming in at 19.66-1, I know it's a bit of a sketchy one. And I know you'll be like, I'm keeping away from Tank Dell. But he has to get involved more. And I think this is the week they try it. So, yeah.
I'm just thinking the Dolphins are they're 11th when it comes giving up passing yards. They're not a bad defense. The Dolphins, they've done all right.
They're underrated, I think.
Yeah, they are. They've done all right this season, and Tank Dell has scarred me too much on my dynasty league. So it's been a horrific year for Tank Dell, and it just hasn't really happened. So that's the one that is.
I think that's why they're not playing well, because they're not getting him involved.
And also I think there's like Stroud. Well, I think the other reason they're not playing well is because Stroud is just not passing the ball enough. It feels very much that they're only interested in the run, and that Joe Mixon is being used probably too much, to be honest. And that's the big issue. But yeah, Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson's a really good option. My concern with Garrett Wilson is the guy throwing it to him, because he only wants to throw it to one guy, and it's not Garrett Wilson, and that's the problem. So that's the concern. And obviously Hopkins, I said before, I think is a good one. So my early touchdown treble, I have gone for Adam Thielen at 21-10 going up against the Cowboys. I just think this defense of the Cowboys you can score on, and Bryce Young's looking better. Where I've gone for Devontae Adams, because Rodgers only wants to throw the ball to Devontae Adams. So that's at 7-5. And then finally, Terry McLaurin for the Commanders at 13-10 against the Saints. This Saints defense isn't great. It's really struggled this season, and McLaurin's the number one passing target for Jaden Daniels. So all three of them 16.11 to 1.
Yeah, a bit lower than your recent weeks, isn't it? You did say it was a bit
and it's going to get lower again.
Oh, okay. Well, my evening one, I haven't done one of these all year, and they're usually my favourites. And I started to put them in, and I went, do you know what? Let's do all three of them. I have gone for a quarterback treble. So we're looking for those quarterbacks. I've gone for Bo Nix at 8-5. I've gone for Kyler Murray at 11-5. And I've gone for Josh Allen at 6-5, coming at 18.5 to 1. So, I think Kyler Murray and Josh Allen, for me, looking at who they're playing, that's a for sure them. It's just that Bo Nix one, but we have seen him use his legs a lot. So I think, I like the odds on it. You
didn't fancy Anthony Richardson as well?
He's playing in the same game. I thought I can't have two from one game.
Jalen Hurts.
Well, Jalen Hurts' odds weren't good enough to bang in it.
No, short in
there. They were really, really short. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen obviously is fair enough. Surely his odds were pretty short, weren't they?
6-5. I didn't mind that. What
okay.
Look what Jalen Hurts was. Where are you?
At the bottom.
There you are. It was 5-6.
Okay.
So 6-5 or 5-6. I know which way I'm going with that. It just didn't boost the odds enough. They're already 18.5 to 1. So
they've all got a chance coming in. It's too unpredictable, isn't it? You never know. Them odds. I mean, I feel Allen is an obvious one and should come in. Nix is the one that's a little bit concerning, I suppose. And who was the other one you said?
Kyler Murray.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you would hope that you'd probably get in against the Patriots as well. So yeah, it's not awful. It's a bit unpredictable.
I've not done one all year. It was about time.
No, you haven't. So my late one, Cortland Sutton for the Broncos against the Colts. Colts are pretty poor against everything, to be honest, when it comes to the defense. So I like Cortland Sutton at 11-8. I've gone for AJ Brown at 7-5. Feel like they've just got to get more, from a team perspective. I think they've just got to get more involved in passing the ball
early.
Earlier as well.
We've seen from them that they try and run the ball early in games and do nothing, and then it's in the fourth quarter it goes and they can run the ball. Now whether they think they're wearing teams out or not, if you don't put points up on the board early, you're going to come unstuck eventually. So just throw the ball a little bit in the first quarter. Just air it out a bit.
So I feel like they need to do a little bit more of that, and that AJ Brown's the best receiver on this team by a mile, I think. And so it's just a matter of time before he gets himself back in the end zone. So 7-5, I'm quite happy to include him. And then finally in the Chargers Bucks game, I've gone for Ladd McConkey at 6-4. I think
is he back to full health?
Yeah, so he's meant to be playing. They reckon that he's back to full health. The Bucks are 30th when it comes to giving up passing yards, and I think that although they want to run the ball,
Maybe not at the minute because they're struggling to do that.
They are struggling with J.K. Dobbins being gone. So I think that there is going to be a bit more willingness to pass. I think the fact they're going to be against the Bucks defense that's pretty steady against the run as well might make them go into a more passing sort of offense. And McConkey being back, he as good as Quinton Johnson was against the Chiefs, and he was decent against them last week. I think McConkey is a step up. And so at 6-4, I'm happy to put him in. So yes, Sutton, Brown, and McConkey, 13.25 to 1.
It does get worse, doesn't it? Yeah, that McConkey reminds me a bit of Cooper Kupp now, doesn't he? Similar role. They're just peppering him with the ball, and early days he just used to catch them all, and then use Johnson over the top and out wide for the big catches because he's got the height. So yeah, I think that's right. Just before we sign out, Adam, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but I just had
sounds
a big
like
bet.
You are. So
I wanted to put a big stupid bet together.
It
came out 139 to 1. And I'm surprised you missed some of these guys off of you bigger than 2 to 1s. Juwan Johnson, 4 to 1.
Who are they playing? The Commanders.
They're playing against the Commanders. And Taysom Hill's out now, and they haven't got a lot of receiving options. So if they get the ball down there with Kamara.
Who's the quarterback?
Jake Hayner.
Excellent.
You know, he's a big target. He's a big guy. They only need one. He got one. He got one at the end of the game last week, didn't he?
Yeah, but Derek Carr's broken, isn't he?
Ray Davis. I think with the Lions D line, if it's still struggling, I think they're going to maybe give Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and James Cook the ball a lot. I think they're going to do that, and he's 3 to 1.
Yeah, but okay. So
you don't need to like this one. I'm not.
No, I don't. You've got 3 running backs that you're. Also, I felt like in who was it in the Rams game? Ty Johnson was used a lot
in the passing game, wasn't he?
In the passing game, but he was out there a lot. I didn't see it. I didn't see much of Ray Davis at all.
And then finally, it's a guy that I've been banging on about this team are using him more and more, and they look like they want to get him the ball more. It's Keontae Turpin at 6 to 1.
Yeah, that one's a little bit. Do you know what?
They want to give him the ball rushing. They want to throw him the ball early. They want to use him downfield because he's got the speed. They use him on punt returns, kickoff returns. They want to get this guy involved, don't they?
Yeah. See, now that one isn't too bad because that makes sense. And like you say, he's out there a lot. I tell you what would be better. I think Ray Davis, I just don't think he's going to get involved enough.
What about a double of Keontae Turpin and Justice Hill?
Yeah, you could go there. That wasn't
6 to 1. You're going to get some big juicy odds on that.
So that's not a bad one. You could go down that one. The other one that I was thinking of, and what would that be? So Keontae Turpin and Justice Hill would be 41 to 1.
Hey, there we go. I think
it's not bad. It's not a bad one. It's probably one that is a little bit more that I would be up for. And
I can see a twinkle in your eye, Adam. You're having that bet later.
I may have accidentally just put a bet on it. So.
Oh, he's already done it. I knew one of my big odds bets I could fall him into. I'll be adding Johnny Wilson into that bet soon and going.
No, I'm good. I'm all right. I was going to say Johnny Wilson just to see what you did, but no.
Yeah. Well. That's all we've got time for. A bit of madness at the end. It's like we've had Sky back on for 5 minutes, isn't it? But you'll probably see that familiar face come the playoffs and Super Bowl. I'm sure he'll crop up again and want to be joining in and tell us what colour the Gatorade is and who's
probably. Yeah.
Tell us who's coming on at halftime to sing with. Who is the halftime this year? Can't remember.
No idea.
It's bad. I did know who it was. Well,
I'm going to sound. I might sound stupid here, but is it Kendrick Lamar?
Maybe, could be.
Okay.
He's done it before, and didn't he do with 50 Cent and work lot?
I might be wrong.
Might be doing it on his own. Yeah. We'll leave that as a surprise for when Sky's on. Sure. Are you Googling it? Is that what you're doing?
No, I was going to look at something else, but I figured this show has kind of died at the end of just confusion, but
that's fine. Best of luck to everybody's teams, Adam. I'm signing off. So you're only telling this, whatever you're Googling, you're only telling me.
Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, there we go. We got it in at the end. We end on a good note. But yeah, as always, keep it with the franchise tag and see you again very soon.